Hey guys, Robbie here. Today we're going to be answering the question, is fruit healthy? So I'll cut right to the chase and say yes, fruit is healthy, but there's some nuance to the answer that if you're curious about whether fruit's healthy, you may want to stay tuned for. So first thing to say is that we tend to lump fruits and vegetables together when we talk about them as a society. So, people say, did you get your 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables? And typically, fruits are listed first. So, an important thing to say right off the bat, fruits are not in the same category as vegetables. They just aren't. You could go the rest of your entire life without having another single fruit, and you could still manage to be perfectly healthy, eating quality protein, vegetables, and healthy fats. The same is not true for vegetables. If you were to go the rest of your life without eating any vegetables, you would be severely deficient, almost certainly, in certain nutrients. So while fruits and vegetables are both healthy, they are not on the same playing field. Fruits are optional and nice, and they're healthy, and they taste delicious and they're great, and they can be added to a healthy diet, but they are not necessary for health. So that's point number one. Point number two is that in, I would say, the paleo primal world, there are two opposite ends of an extreme in terms of opinions on fruit. One end of the extreme basically says that no one ever got fat, sick, or diabetic from eating fruit. The other end of the extreme says fructose is essentially toxic to our body because it gets primarily metabolized by the liver. And the more we can minimize it, the better. And even more generally, the types of fruits we eat today, we didn't eat in the past. So I would say, overall, I'm somewhere in the middle between these two, probably closer to the first one that said no one ever got fat, sick, or diabetic from eating fruit. But that being said, there is something to the other side. So on the one side, I agree absolutely. No one ever got fat, sick, or diabetic just from eating fruit. But at the same time, there are certain considerations to take into account with fruit consumption today. So, number one, uh, historically speaking, we weren't eating fruit year round. So, from a historical perspective, humans until relatively recently, like the past 100 years, weren't eating strawberries in January because fruit was seasonal. Furthermore, historically, the types of fruits that we were eating tended to be very low in sugar. So an apple in nature is much more like a crab apple, which if you've ever had one, you'll know is really, really tart. It's almost bitter, and it's just got a little bit of sweetness. And over the course of history, we've selectively bred apples to be like a Red Delicious apple, which has, a lot of sugar, a lot of fructose, tastes really sweet, and it's lower in fiber. So these wild counterparts of these fruits tend to be healthier because there's health in the bitter compounds, and the more contemporary counterparts tend to be much sweeter. So it's important to keep in mind that while fruit is healthy and no one ever became fat, sick, or diabetic just from eating fruit, the same way someone could from eating or from having Pepsi or from having fast food, it's also important to remember that we weren't having Red Delicious apples every single day from a historical perspective, and Red Delicious apples didn't even exist. And that by itself isn't a condemnation of Red Delicious apples. It's just to say that an apple in nature doesn't have 40 grams of sugar, right? Depending on the size of the apple and the nature of the apple, it's a lot lower in sugar. So, with that all in mind, what are my rules for fruit? So here are my rules for fruit. Number one, eat your fruit, don't drink it. So your fruit should be consumed as a food rather than drunk, like orange juice or something like that. It's going to be a lot better on your blood sugar, a lot better for nutrient absorption, fiber absorption, all the rest of that stuff. So try to eat your fruit rather than drink your fruit. Number two, you're going to want to have fruit as a dessert for a meal rather than as a meal itself. Now, if you need it for a snack or if it's between you and McDonald's because you're really hungry and all you have is a fruit, have a fruit. But generally speaking, treat fruit as a finisher to a meal rather than a meal itself. And number three, tend to prioritize those lower glycemic fruits. It's harder in the winter depending on where you live, especially in northern Indiana. But berries are pretty low glycemic, meaning lower lower sugar. So you want to favor those. There's nothing technically wrong with a banana or an apple, but generally speaking, berries have a higher nutrient, uh, uh, component, and they have a lower sugar component. And then in terms of organic versus non-organic, apples, berries, grapes, things like that, you almost always want to buy organic because they're very high in pesticides, whereas oranges, bananas, and pineapples, you don't need to worry as much because you end up peeling off or cutting off the skin. All right, guys, so hopefully now you've got a good sense of whether fruit is healthy. You've got a better sense of the nuance of the debate, and hopefully you have some practical tips to help you with your fruit consumption. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.